Welcome to the After Dark podcast with Anthony James and Conrad. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
Hello, and welcome to the After Dark podcast. I'm Anthony James, and that's Conrad.
Hello.
We've made it to the Season 1 summary. We're on top of the mountain. Conrad, how do you feel?
Oh, how about that view from here?
There's an even bigger mountain next to us for Season 2 that is covered in clouds for the minute. But
yeah, it's like that episode of The Simpsons where Homer, I can't remember which one it is, but he climbs a mountain and then looks to his immediate right and finds out he's actually only ascended like half the mountain, and there's another massive towering peak right next to him.
Yeah, and then when we get to the top of the next one, there'll be another one as well. So that's
another
great.
one in the shape of Noah's face.
Yeah, so I don't know how the listeners are feeling, but for me, every time we go through an extra episode and Conrad's learning a bit more, I'm really, really excited for him to learn the rest. And I've just been saying to Conrad as well as my wife for the last few weeks, I can't wait till you've just seen it all and we can talk about it. But at the same time, I think this week I've had a few moments of reflection where I've really just sort of sat there and I'm like, oh, this is great. Like where we are at the minute in this journey is really great because there's so much. I'm so excited for what you've got in front of you. I like that it's in front, not behind, you know? Yeah,
definitely. Like let's not wish this anticipation away because we won't be able to get it back once it's gone. Like, well, you know, we're in this sort of the eye of the hurricane at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and my mind just keeps going to how hilarious it would be if we watched the last episode and you're just like, what a load of you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we gotta savor it until I inevitably hit the episode where I turn on this series entirely and just cancel the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, look out for that. You'll be able to find that cancelling of the podcast on audio apps. We are on all the main ones. Those numbers are, yeah, thank you. Those numbers are still going up and we're really pleased to see it. If you're listening on audio apps, thank you very much. Obviously, we still like you listening onto YouTube as well, and that's where you can make your comments. So there's a lot of comments for this video talking about Season 1 in general, and they're asking questions of what Conrad thinks about Season 2. So we'll get into those, and there's a lot of them. So thank you very much. We'll be going through a lot of them later on. Before we do, we're going to go through our general thoughts of the first series. Well, I'm not going to give all my thoughts because obviously I'll probably give something away, but Conrad will give his general thoughts of the series. Then we've got a special surprise. We're going to go through Conrad's theory matrix. So Conrad, before we go into the summary, why don't you explain what the theory matrix is to the listeners?
So it's not a perfect system. I'll begin by saying that, and I'm sure some, I was about to say eagle-eared listeners, but that doesn't make sense. Whatever has good hearing, bat-eared maybe, like listeners, will pick up on maybe a couple of theories that I haven't included in this that I mentioned kind of offhand in the episodes. But basically, I can't remember when I decided to do it. I think it was around about the third episode. My partner convinced me that I should start writing down the theories and like when I propose them and track like when I'm marking them off as correct or indeed incorrect, so that we get a sense of the often scattershot approach I have to trying to figure out what is going on in Dark. And it's ended up with this kind of nightmarish, how many rows have we got now? 67 rows in a spreadsheet for the first season. And a lot of these are kind of, you know, like I've aggregated more than one theory into one line to try and save space. But yeah, this nightmarish spreadsheet that we might not reflect well on me.
Maybe we'll look into, now if it's not there, I'll just cut this out of the podcast. But maybe we could look into maybe getting that somewhere online and put a link to it in the description of this video.
Yeah, we could do that. They can follow along as I add stuff to it. I'll have to make sure not to put anything too condemning of my character in there. But yeah.
Oh, don't worry, we're full of that sort of thing. Yeah, so just so if you're listening to this and you're really questioning, or maybe you've hit the wall, or maybe you've hit the roof, or you're absolutely seething at the idea that we aren't doing Season 2, Episode 1 today, we made the decision to really sum up our ideas at the end of Season 1, and we're going to do the same at the end of Season 2, because I think it's important, not only for Conrad to get his ideas in order, not only for us to sort of see where we're going with it, for you to get a chance to ask him questions, really try and lead him down whatever rabbit holes you want to, but I think it's also important because I really want Conrad's experience of seeing the show to mirror ours in a little way. So I don't want him to just go straight from season 1 to season 2. In my mind, there needs to be a break, because at least we're only doing a week break, but it's still something. So when he looks back on watching the show, season 1, season 2, and season 3 are very separate entities, because that's what a season of TV, it's like a film. It's a separate thing, and it's like all the love and work of the creators goes into that one thing, and then they move on to the next. So even though the story is continuous, it is its own piece, and I'd like to give it its own dues, and also Conrad can think of it as a separate thing. What do you think, Conrad?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's nice to just have a little time to kind of reflect on what I've seen. I think the risk, if you go straight into the next season, is, like you say, they kind of become contiguous and just run into each other.
Yeah.
And that's not really how they were designed to be consumed. Although in the age of streaming media, I guess there's less of an argument for that. But
when it's all out at the end, like all 3 seasons are out now, obviously people who are only starting to watch the show now would usually binge it all in one go. But definitely there was me and a lot of the listeners, we had to wait a year between each series.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'd like to mirror that as much as possible. And also, like you say, just for my own benefit, it's nice to be able to look back on how my ideas progressed. Just to be honest, with this theory matrix, and also just, some of the stuff I proposed in the episodes or talked about in the episodes, there's probably stuff that I've forgotten from episode 1 or 2 that just having this kind of reflection will allow me to remember, and will potentially reveal me to even be even more of an idiot than the theory matrix is going to make me look. So
yeah, or maybe you've accidentally correctly predicted something that you didn't even realize.
Exactly. Yeah.
Also, actually, I've just thought of this while we're speaking, but it's also really good for the people who don't actually listen to the question and answer videos, because the people who don't listen to those videos won't have heard a lot of your theories. So the theories you make based on people's questions, everyone's going to hear them now. That is, unless they're just skipping this episode. But if you are, that's fair enough. So let's get into we'll sort of spend a tiny bit of time now talking about our general thoughts and feelings about the first series. So Conrad, give me your sort of very quick review of the series. This can be Conrad's review time. What do you think?
So I think it's a show which goes in. There's kind of 2 levels to Dark, because it goes in the direction you kind of expect it to from the first episode in terms of the sort of broad story beats. It's going to include time travel. It's going to have something to do with kids gallivanting about through time, but it sort of takes these kind of fairly obvious plot hooks that it throws out in the first episode and does some really, really interesting things with them. And I think between the amazing character work and the amazing writing in the series and the frankly ridiculously complex plot that they come up with, and the amount they're able to cram into 10 episodes of television, it's phenomenal. I think when I went into this looking back on the first episode, I was looking at this as kind of like a Stranger Things kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Even at that stage, maybe you didn't even expect anything supernatural.
Yeah, definitely. I think I suspected there would be time travel, but I didn't know how. There's different kinds of time travels. There's like the Back to the Future kind of time travel where it's sort of science fiction-y, but not really. It's kind of just an excuse to get someone in the 50s and do like a fish out of water, Robert Zemeckis comedy. And maybe it was going to be that kind of thing. But it keeps its cards very close to its chest, and I think it's a good thing that it does that, because it's as soon as it starts revealing stuff and doling out what it's actually going to be about and how it's going to go about doing that, how competently and how brilliantly it's going to realize its characters and its setting and its themes, it just becomes this incredibly engaging series that it's almost flawless, really. I can't really think back to anything apart from the bloody Helga thing. That's the only thing that I could potentially find fault with. But I mean, that's
in terms of the listeners don't realize it. Are you speaking in terms of the fact that you think Helga shouldn't have been able to wake up because he was on the ground for too long?
Yeah, like that still feels to me just like I've kind of accepted that I guess he was just fine and just woke up without any medical aid whatsoever, having had his head beaten in. That feels like the plot kind of advancing that, or that feels like that plot line advancing because it needs to advance rather than because the writing actually makes it make sense to advance. But I mean, that's such a minor thing that I don't really care. It's just a thing that kind of I got hung up on.
It doesn't break your immersion in the show, but
not at all. No,
but I know what you mean. Like at the same time, it's sort of you were led down a certain path in your mind because you just assumed the way it was portrayed. You were like, well, clearly he's dead, you know.
Yeah.
So as you go, there was actually funny. Someone commented on the on that episode, and they went into a full blown scientific explanation as to what happens. Like your heart rate slows down. Maybe Ulrich wouldn't have heard his pulse because he's not a trained professional. It doesn't really, it's just it is what it is.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just to be clear, like it is a tiny thing. Like it's not like I'm not like of the mind that like this has ruined Dark for me. Like, but I think it's more. It's a endorsement of how good Dark is, that the one thing that I can think of when I think of a flaw is that one moment in a script of thousands of words in 10 hours of television where something felt a little bit too convenient for my liking in the script. But that's literally all it is. And but apart from that, I really can't say enough about how great this show is. I'm very grateful to have been introduced to it, to be honest.
Yeah, except for the school on Sunday. That's also
yeah. Sure, I hope someone got fired for that blunder. Is all I'm saying.
Having said that, someone actually came up with in the comments, and I can't remember. Sorry, I can't give you credit. Let me know in the comments of this video if this was you who said it. But someone actually came up with an explanation as to why that would have been. Now it's probably nonsense, like absolute bollocks. But this is the explanation, right?
Go on.
Because there was Chernobyl.
Okay.
I think it maybe.
It's already funny.
I think it was a maybe a thing in the 80s around that time in Central Europe that whenever it was raining, because it was acid rain, you wouldn't have left the house. And so this person was saying, well, maybe like whenever there's forecast for rain, they don't go to school, and then so they just go to school every day.
Just have to go to school on a Sunday.
Yeah, whenever there's no rain, no matter what day it is, you go to school because you've missed too much because of the rain.
So the weekend, you get a weekend at like 1 day's notice. They're like, today's a Saturday, quick.
Yeah.
Make plans.
It's like your weekend is only when it's raining.
Yeah. Although actually, I will say I did go to boarding school for a couple of years, and we did go to school on Sundays and on Saturdays. So, although admittedly that was just going to church, which was not fun. So,
yeah. So, but you wouldn't have been sitting in the corridor just drawing.
No, we wouldn't. Yeah, wouldn't have been hanging out listening to. I can't remember the song she's listening to now. It's Flock of Seagulls. It's completely gone out of my head. But yeah, we wouldn't have been sitting in the corridor listening to music on headphones and drawing.
Yeah, and no time travelers came and asked you the date.
No, not that I know of, anyway. I mean,
So it's just a normal thing to ask the date. Yeah. Well, they're time travel because if they make a huge pause and then say, "What year?"
Yeah. And then when I sort of ask them like where they're from, they give me like a really cryptic answer that doesn't make sense, and they sort of imply that they're from a different time rather than a different city.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we are going to I'm happy enough with that. I really like the fact that from my perspective of this show and of this podcast and Conrad watching it, Conrad has enjoyed the show a lot more. No, I obviously knew he'd like the show, but I'm really just pleased that he's really fell sort of the way I fell when I watched the show. So he loves it just as much as I loved it at the time when I first seen it. So so it's really, really, really great because for doing this like maybe every show we ever do on this, one of us isn't going to like it as much as the other one. But I'm so glad that we started with something that's just such high quality that there's no chance we weren't both just going to love it,
Yeah, it's all just downhill from here.
Yeah, exactly. Question, actually, you've started your theory matrix.
Yes.
My question is, there's a thing in the fandom that most people, because there's so many characters, and then you also see the multiple timelines.
Yeah.
There's so like something, and maybe you didn't need to do this because you had me talking you through it, right? But a lot of people seem to, around the episode 2 or 3, whenever we go to the 80s, they seem to start drawing up their own family trees to keep a track of everyone. Is that something that you did?
I haven't done that yet, actually. I've I have thought about it, but I haven't yet committed to doing that. Maybe I should, though. We'll see how. At the moment, it's not too bad. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's to be honest with you, it's not something I ever did. It's
Okay,
not,
that makes me feel better.
I didn't find out until I started going on forums and stuff that people did that. Because to me, like, yeah, there's a lot of characters, but I'm used to watching Game of Thrones, which that was one where for the first few episodes you have no idea who everyone is. You just,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who
I
the
just
hell is
got
Thoros of Myr? You just
Yeah.
kind of like, you have to just I mean, you get that in this as well. Like, I think we said in the first two episodes, or no, sorry, episode 1 and episode 3, you have like a season premiere or a pilot, and then you have basically another one in the 80s, and you just kind of have to immerse yourself in that world and
it's like a
accept
new
that
show.
it's going to pinch a little bit at first, but it'll fit like an old shoe eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And then they did it again in episode 8. But
Yeah.
I just thought as well, because I'm a teacher, maybe that's why I didn't need to do a family tree as well, because whenever I get my new class for the year or whatever, I need to know all their names really quickly. So I'm really good at sort of like putting faces to names and remembering them. That might be something there. Obviously, it's not because I'm a teacher, but the fact that I'm good at my job because of that as well. Maybe not.
Yeah.
So what do you think? I'm really looking forward to this. We've got 67 rows of a spreadsheet to get through, so we may as well start. What about this theory matrix then? I'm looking forward to going back and revisiting your early ones.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the way I'm going to do this is I'll tell you the theory. I'll tell you the episode I proposed it and the episode I concluded it. And then to have a little bit of fun, you can tell me whether you think I got it right or not. And then I can tell you whether I've marked it off as right or not.
Oh, yeah. Because it is your opinion, basically, whether you think
yeah, exactly.
You're right or not.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and I want this to be impartially judged.
Yeah.
So, we gotta get some numbers on the board here and make sure they're ratified by, independent third parties. So.
Oh, no problem. Actually, that's a great idea. So you could actually, I think this is what we should do. So you could have a score of 1 for a correct theory and a score of -1 for an incorrect theory. And then the idea would be at the end of this 3 series, you want to be in a positive number.
I want to have a positive number. I'll just end up at 0.
Yeah.
I'll be no better off than if I hadn't watched the series at all. Yeah, okay, let's do that then.
Okay, so what's your first theory that you came up with?
So this one's a bit of a banker, I'll be honest. So theory 1 proposed, episode 1 concluded, episode 2, the theory is there is time travel.
Yeah, okay, you get a point for that. Yeah.
Yes, in the bag.
And I think if I remember correctly, that theory was based on the fact that Eric seemed to be in the 80s in a blue room with all the 80s music playing.
Yeah, I think I don't actually remember if I said this out loud on the podcast, but in my head, basically from the moment I saw that room, I was of the opinion that was actually, it didn't just appear to be the 80s, it was the 80s. And I feel like there was some other stuff as well, like with the weird kind of Michael, as he was then, like turning up covered in oil and flashing lights and loud noises and spooky caves.
Definitely,
I just felt
yes. Weird stuff pointing in terms of supernatural. You were showed some 80s stuff. It leads to time travel.
So
right.
These aren't all as vague as this. You'll notice they get a lot more specific as the show goes on and I get a better idea. So the episode, and also conversely, I get a lot right early on because they're a lot vaguer, and then mama, does there end up being a lot of red later on, as you get further down the list. So theory 2, proposed, episode 1 not concluded until episode 8. The nuclear plant is involved in this somehow.
Oh, and you have concluded that, and you want me to predict at this point in the story, are you wrong?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
obviously you've marked yourself down as wrong there.
Do you think I've marked myself? I actually marked myself down as right, but I mean that's based on.
Oh, okay. So what you mean by involvement at this point? It's literally just that the boys. Oh no, hang on.
That was when episode 8 was when it was
discovered?
revealed that there was a nuclear accident, an accident at the nuclear plant, and that's what caused the wormhole under Vinden. So that's what I've given myself.
Yeah, I forgot that was in episode 8. We got that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I've given myself that point on. Again, though, I'm happy to. These are just my marking.
Oh no, definitely, and we also know that the cesium-137 came from those barrels now, and that was as a result, we assume, of that accident. So
yeah.
The power plant had everything to do with this, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really, as we find out at the end of the season, it's not really the power plant's fault, to be honest. It's bloody Jonas getting up to no good, getting up to hijinks.
Yeah, exactly.
So next theory. Proposed episode 1, concluded episode 10. It's a classic. Peter Doppler is guilty of something. Give me those points.
We concluded that 1, he was guilty of adultery, and 2, he's guilty of taking a child's dead body and throwing it in the woods.
Exactly. But I mean, this is really a let he who is without sin cast the first stone sort of situation here. You know, like this is so vague that, you know, I'd kind of, you know, just given myself the points already for this one.
Yeah. I like the idea of you making a load of vague predictions.
Yeah. I don't
Jonas
worry.
Jonas will step foot in a school one more time. At least one more time. Yeah.
Jonas will wear a jacket again. Okay, so next theory. Proposed episode 1, concluded episode 6. There's a thin place in the caves. So kind of a spot where you can step between times.
Yeah, I think you're correct on that.
Okay,
it's not a thin place, but it's you were right. I think that, to be honest with you,
crossing, I guess.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I think that's a pretty obvious one as well. If we're going to generalize it out to a crossing in some way, yeah, that was going to be a banker, I think.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I gave myself that one. Right, okay. So next one. Proposed episode 1 has not yet been concluded. This show is going to be about kids policing time. I haven't written this one off yet, you'll notice.
That's true.
There's nothing to definitively say that this won't happen.
Can I question something?
Go on.
If who we now know to be an older Jonas somehow becomes a time cop in the future, does that count as the kids being policing time?
It's a hard one to answer. I feel like I'm too personally invested to give an unbiased answer to that. I know what my heart tells me.
If he starts walking around with handcuffs and becomes a cop for time, then I'll have to think more about that one.
If older Jonas procures a pair of gravity handcuffs, which are what I proposed in episode 1, and he goes back to Roman times to stop Noah from, I don't know, assassinating Julius Caesar or something, then I'm giving myself the points for that. I don't care what anyone else says.
Right. Okay.
But as of yet, ongoing. Okay, and this is the last one for episode 1. So proposed episode 1. I've got concluded episode 2. I don't know if this is actually right that it was concluded in episode 2, but that Agnes is Michael's mother. So that's like the first specific one that I made.
Okay. Maybe that was concluded in episode 2 because I accidentally told you that.
Did you tell me?
I don't remember telling you, but is there a scene whenever you see?
I feel like there's something in episode 2 that confirmed that for me. And
anyway, it is confirmed now. So you thought, you sort of guessed that Agnes was Michael's mother because you didn't see Hannah falling out with her own mother that badly. Yeah.
Basically.
Cool.
Cool. Okay. Nice. So that's almost a clean sweep for the first episode. Then that's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Pretty ridiculous.
5 out of 4. I mean, they're very vague. Sorry, 4 out of 5. That's they're vague. Sorry, 5 out of 6. But they're very vague. So they get more specific. So on to episode 2 then. Octoconia, so the stuff in the ears of the animals that tells them which way is up and which way is down, is messed up by black holes and causes the birds to fly into the ground. So that was proposed in episode 2 and concluded in episode 4.
Yeah, and you got that right.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think you got that right. However, I did dispute with you the fact that when we saw the birds, they were falling, not flying into the ground.
Yeah. I feel like, but I mean, you take that up with Dark. That's not my fault. I'm just going on what they're telling me. Yeah. But yeah, I do agree with you. Like those birds were pretty tamely bumping into Egon, or in episode 2, I guess that was the Charlotte kind of them sort of flopping out of the air.
They probably flew into each other and then just fell dead.
Maybe. Or they just fainted. Because, if you're flying straight down, you're going to hit terminal velocity and pass out probably. So, it's that's maybe what happened to them.
Cool.
Okay, right. This is another specific one. So proposed episode 2, concluded episode 3. The old dude is H.G. Tannhaus, and that is the exact wording that I've written down here.
Yeah, and the old dude, you didn't mean old Helga. You were actually talking about the old dude on the...
the old dude on the book.
On the book, yeah. The old H.G. Tannhaus. Yeah, you saw him on the back. Hang on. No, I think
you see him on the back of a book in...
No. You predicted that because you saw him on the TV screen.
Oh, that's right. You see him on the
in
TV screen.
In the 80s room, and you
Yeah,
knew
that's true.
that you knew that the book existed with the author's name. So you actually predicted that off what most people wouldn't have predicted it off. So that was good.
Yeah, I was quite pleased with that one. Okay. And then this one, proposed episode 2, concluded episode 7. The hooded figures are operating independently of the nuclear plant.
Is that being concluded?
Yeah, that was concluded in episode 7.
And you got... see, this is... Okay, so if you...
Yeah, you're having to come at this knowing stuff that I don't know yet. So maybe we might have to revisit this later to see if there's a way to reopen, like Mulder reopening the X-Files. We might have to reopen some of these theories later on when they're debunked. Yeah,
so like I'm not too worried in terms of that, to be honest with you. Like, so don't overthink anything that I'm doing here. If I take a pause, it's because I'm actually thinking whether I'm going to give you the point or not because I'm thinking, oh, does that happen in the future? I'm doing it just based on season 1 knowledge, okay?
Okay.
So it was whether they work for the power plant. Well, as far as we know, the only hooded figures we've seen really is Helga, and then other characters who've been wearing the hood thematically to, like Stranger. We've seen him wearing a hood. We've seen Ulrich wearing a hoodish thing. Yeah. We've seen Toronto with a hood on. But the only one we've actually seen delivering dead bodies and taking people with a hood on is Helga. So he works for the power plant.
That is true. But
I don't think that he did it in his capacity as a graffiti sweeper.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he flashed his nuclear plant ID at any point to sort of take the bodies in somewhere official. So yeah, I have given myself the points for that one.
You have. Oh, you said
I have given myself the. Yeah,
you thought they were working independent.
Yeah, so they weren't working with the nuclear plant. So.
Okay, I that's fine.
Nice. Okay, you may be able to guess this one fairly easily. So this was proposed in episode 2, concluded in episode 8. This is a show about a government conspiracy to send kids back in time to the 80s so that scientists who are currently in the 80s can try sending them forward again, thus completing their time travel manipulation.
Mark it. Falsch.
Mark it in your diaries, folks. The first read, but certainly not the last. Okay, and this one, this annoys me because I would go on to get this correct, but the idea of the identity of this character was a thorn in my side. So, proposed episode 2, concluded episode 4. The stranger is Older Mickle.
Yeah.
Classic mistake.
Falsch.
God damn it. Okay.
I will say, actually, you didn't do what most people do. And I think a lot of people who don't clock that the dead kid in the first episode is Mads.
Yeah.
Everyone who hasn't clocked him, which you didn't clock him as Mads. So it would at least, some people, it would cross their mind that maybe that the stranger was Mads. But that didn't cross your mind at all, really.
No, I was... to be honest, I wasn't really thinking too much about Mads, which is perhaps an indication of a lack of imagination on my part. But I was all in on the Mickle hype train at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Okay, so this is the last one for episode 2. So this was concluded in episode 6. The power cuts are caused by something consuming power under the nuclear plant.
And what's your thoughts on that?
I've said I've got it right. It's not consuming power, but it is ballsing the power up. So I've given myself that.
Under the nuclear plant?
Well, yeah, I guess it's not under the nuclear plant, to be fair. It's under the...
So it's not consuming power, and it's not under the nuclear plant, and you've given yourself that right.
Listen, if you could see how much red was in the second half of this Matrix. This doesn't make for good reading, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, I don't know about that one.
All right.
Well, I don't want to annoy you.
No, you've said it now. I've changed the colour.
We haven't seen underneath the power plant.
Jesus Christ. All right, okay, fine. Okay, here we go. Right. Episode 3, we're moving on.
Let's move on.
Episode 3, not concluded yet. Regina will have a sword fight at some point.
Oh, okay. I'll not say nothing about that.
Say nothing.
We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see.
Okay. Also, episode 3, also not concluded. There is some kind of satanic blood magic at work with 33 sheep sacrificed to send someone back 33 years.
Interesting.
It's out there. It's in the ether.
Well,
Those
the sheep did actually die because someone sent someone back in time.
Yes.
Now we know that people were getting sent back in time on Noah's Ark, so to speak.
Yeah.
They were dying. So, but the question becomes: did those sheep die when he was making that, in quotation marks, sacrifice? Obviously, it wasn't satanic blood magic, but maybe that they did actually die as a result of that. I can't remember which, or maybe it was just someone coming through the tunnel. I can't remember exactly.
It was Yasin popping up. Was it Yasin? I think it. I can't remember now who it was. No, it can't have been Yasin. That's way too early for Yasin. I don't remember who exactly it was, but yeah, that's it's unconcluded at the moment. So we'll see kind of what, if anything, comes of that. It might just be the ravings of a lunatic, to be honest.
It might have been when Mickle.
Maybe it was Mickle. Yeah.
When Mickle came to Agnes.
So
Okay.
that's the only two I've got for episode 3, which is really disappointing because I feel like there was more coming out of that one, but clearly my brain wasn't firing on all cylinders. So on to episode 4. Proposed episode 4, concluded episode 5. Probably the last horse to cross the finish line with this one, but Michael is Mickle.
Correct.
Back of the net.
Yeah, you got there eventually. You got there. Like, I was really hoping that you'd get there before we recorded episode 5, because if you got it, see if you'd watched episode 5 and then you were like, see halfway through this episode.
Yeah, I figured it out.
I got it.
Yeah, no one would believe me.
Yeah, so that was good.
Well, unless they sort of doubt that I'm being honest and think that I'm going ahead and watching a bunch of like dark spoiler videos.
I think everyone who's watching us at this point, like if someone really genuinely thought you were being dishonest, why on earth would you be listening to any more than one of that podcast?
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one is very, very out there, and we've kind of already discussed it before, but. So this was concluded in episode 8. This is the 9 worlds Yggdrasil theory with the tree box and the Celtic knots.
Yeah. What about that?
So well, exactly. So I've marked this down as wrong in episode 8 purely because it's too vague to really. I think we talked about it.
Yeah.
Maybe in the episode 9 roundup where we're saying thematically there is stuff there, but it's not literally he's walking through a world tree to go and visit the world of the elves and the world of the frost giants and all that stuff. So
so all that sort of thematic stuff you're predicting, or obviously you were predicting that was going to actually happen, but when we get to the very end and we see all the themes in the show, if we want to go and revisit, maybe we'll change that to a half point. Not just that one, but I mean generally thematic things that don't actually come to fruition physically but do come to fruition in a thematic way. Maybe we can, I don't know if that. I think there's definitely some themes of that around already, but whether or not it will be a big theme throughout the show, we're not sure. But maybe we can figure out some sort of thematic half point at some.
Yeah, well, we'll see if I need the charity. I suspect I probably will. This is there's a few more for episode 4 actually. So Helge was a victim of these hooded figures in the past, hence his ear. That was proposed in episode 4 and concluded in episode 8 as well.
So he was a victim of the hooded figures. Well, we know that is incorrect.
Yeah. So that's what I've got.
You were dancing around it, though, to be honest with you, and I'm sorry that's incorrect because it was such a good guess, and it's actually almost there because he did, like, in a way he did become involved in the time travel. So you were dancing around it, but it's not correct.
He's had he ends up in their thrall somehow, but it's not the way that I thought it was going to happen. So yeah, I'm prepared to accept that one as incorrect. So the next two are also not yet concluded. So the first one, Elizabeth and Yasin aren't actually deaf mute. We'll never know with Yasin. Elizabeth,
of course we know with Yasin. He's running the power plant. 2019.
That's true. Yeah, he is running the power plant. He's talking fine. He can hear everything. He's got a perfectly healthy relationship with Regina.
That was the best way to actually come out of the deaf mute closet was to actually pretend in quotation marks to die and then come back as Boris Nivald and then
Boris Nivald is actually an anagram of Yasin, whatever his surname is.
Boris Nivald, and he then exactly, Alexander Kola. But that's a theory we'll come back to in this theory matrix later, I'm sure.
Yeah. We'll come. Yeah, don't you worry about that. We're on the way. And likewise to that theory, Elizabeth and Yasin are evil masterminds. So that's that's one of my more out there theories. I don't really believe that's actually going to happen, but I thought it was a bit of fun, so I'll leave it in.
Yeah, leave it in. I think are you finished to see episode 4 ones? Because I can remember one from episode 4 you haven't said yet.
There's 2 more from episode 4.
Okay.
I think I know the one you're talking about, and I've actually got that down in episode 5, because I think I didn't actually vocalize it until episode 5. But I'll go through the last 2 for episode 4.
Okay.
And we can tell you if those are the ones that you're thinking of. So
the one I'm thinking of, the one you think I'm thinking of, is in episode. You did that in 4.5, I think.
Yes.
But the one I'm thinking of is not that. So do the last 2, and then I'll let you know if you've got it.
So this one was concluded in episode 5, and that is the stranger is Noah.
Yeah, and that's false. Yeah.
Nil point. Okay.
We're coming from England. England, how many points?
12 points! And everyone cheers and sings.
12 points.
Song. I actually can't remember 12 in French. I'm sorry.
Zero.
Yeah, if we could give it lower than 0, we would.
Imagine in the Eurovision if they went to someone and went, "How many points?" They're like, 0 points.
I wouldn't blame them, to be honest.
Yeah,
we've not done well in the Eurovision Song Contest for a while, and rightfully so.
Yeah. No, exactly. Ireland isn't Ireland one of the most successful of all time?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah, Ireland has some of the most wins out of anyone, and then they started sending a puppet turkey called Duncan, who raps, and then it just went downhill.
That is appalling. That's true. I genuinely can't believe that's actually the case.
Yeah, it is the case. Right, next theory.
Okay. So I've lost my place. Here we go. Yes, the last one for episode 4. So I concluded this in episode 10 with an unprecedented orange score. Just so I probably shouldn't have told you that, but never mind. So the stranger has come back from a post-apocalyptic future like Trunks in Dragon Ball Z.
Interesting.
Because we don't know that he's come back from that world yet, I guess, is why I've given myself an orange score for this.
But what do you mean? Because Jonas is now there. So if
that's true, yeah.
So we do know that. The only thing that's if you had actually left out the with Trunks part,
yeah,
it would be perfect. Like Trunks. So the fact that it says like Trunks, there's a few more checkboxes that have to be done there.
I mean, if you're asking me, do I think the future in Dark is going to have androids created by Dr. Giro who have conquered the world? I'm going to say probably no. Although there was that drone.
There was.
That might be piloted by an AI.
Yeah, and Cell's trying to eat it. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I would say the orange is correct for that. So
okay, I'll give myself no points for that. But we'll just call that one a wash. Yeah. Okay. So we're into episode 5 now.
Oh, before you go, episode 4, you missed a theory, and that theory was that you thought that based on the end of the episode and how it went, that whoever the hooded figure was, who now I suppose we can assume is Helga, you thought that Yasin must have met them before. That was a supposed theory.
Yes, that is true. Actually, I didn't include that one. So I guess that's completely wrong, to be honest.
I think that's completely wrong. But yeah. I don't even know if we have any. I don't even know if we have any evidence, cold hard evidence that it's completely wrong. But I just think it's completely wrong because they're just following the book. I don't think Helga's going and just talking to these kids in the forest and then taking them. I think he's just taking them.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Let me write that in. We're doing it live. Before 4. I can't actually remember when that would have been disproven, so I'm not going to put an episode in that. I'm just going to say red.
Yeah. No,
there we go. -1. Thank you very much. I needed the help.
I needed to give you more minus, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So into episode 5. So this was proposed episode 5, concluded in episode 7. Peter Doppler is a red herring and is being set up by Noah.
Peter Doppler is a red herring and is being set up by Noah. That's weird. I think maybe that's an orange because, to be honest with you, like orange, I know is still 0 points, but at least it gives you a bit of pride. I think that's an orange, and I'll tell you why. Because he kind of was a red herring in a way. Like he wasn't involved in taking the kids. He was a bit of a red herring, even though he was involved in like taking Mads away. And the reason why the set up by Noah thing is actually an orange, in my opinion, is because what book were they following?
Yeah, that is true.
You know what I mean? Like at this point, we don't know where that book came from, but we can. That's why I'm saying it's an orange, because we can assume that there's some connection to Noah there, even if it's not, even if he's never talked to Peter. You know, there's some connection to Noah there in a way. You know.
Okay, I mean, I gave myself red for that, to be honest, but I'm happy to change it to an orange.
No, leave it red. No, I'm just kidding. Give it orange, because I think you're right in that he was a red herring. He was a red herring, even though it did end up being something important. He was a red herring to who's killing the kids.
Yeah.
And I think that because there's some connection to Noah there, even in the slightest amount, you have to get orange for that.
Yeah, I suppose like Noah, even if he isn't directly doing it, is definitely involved.
He's influencing it in the past or the future or the present or whatever he's doing. His presence influences it.
Well, I'm glad these are in the order they are in, because armed with all of that we just said there, the following, you might have changed your mind on the previous one if I'd have done this one first. Okay. So, proposed episode 5, concluded episode 10. This is the biggie. Peter Doppler and Tronte are so obviously guilty that they couldn't possibly be involved with Noah. Kiama! I haven't marked down the gap in the middle where I stopped believing in this theory. I've carried it straight through from episode 5 to episode 10.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I know that kind of my last answer of the last one kind of implies this should be orange too, but I think this is green.
Oh, yes.
I think it's green. Like that.
I would among the points.
Yeah, like they're not really talking to know or anything. Like I'll give it an orange once, so I'll not do that for the green one.
Oh, that's very generous. Okay.
So I've actually given you a point there and stopped you losing a point the last one. I'm being very generous.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. I should probably keep a tally of these, to be honest. I'll do it when we take a break. So next one. This was also proposal 5 and concluded in episode. Oh no, this was concluded in episode 7 actually. The Doppler cabin and bunker are being used by Noah to house kids, but in a different time.
Correct.
Come on.
Yeah, that was good. I can't remember you making that at all. That prediction.
To be honest, I don't either, but it's on here. So, I must have done at some point, unless I'm like retroactively going back and just adding in theories I know to be correct.
Yeah, but is your girlfriend just adding in theories behind your back?
Yeah, she's like getting me a couple of mercy points.
Yeah.
We've got a nice little stretch here, I think, actually, before we descend into what I will describe as a disastrous run of predictions. More on that later. Episode 5 concluded. Episode 10. This is probably actually the biggie. The stranger is older Jonas.
Yeah, that was like you got that as soon as that Obi-Wan Kenobi scene happened. You got it. You got it straight away. So
It was that. And I'll remember it to the day I die, like that pause where he says, do we know each other? And rather than him saying just, no, of course we don't know each other, we've never met, he waits for like 40 seconds before responding. It's like, that felt like quite a pregnant pause to me. Yeah. That felt like there was some meaning in that.
Or maybe he was thinking like, I don't understand the question because we've been talking for 2 or 3 minutes, so we know each other in the last 2 minutes.
How can one truly know another human?
Yeah,
that's what he was thinking. But yeah, so I'll have some points for that.
How can I know another human if I don't truly know myself?
Yeah. Starts quoting Sartre. Right, okay, so this is... we've got quite a load for 5, actually. I hadn't realised how many I'd done for 5. Jesus. Okay, well, so proposed episode 5, concluded...
Listen, we're going through them all. If people get bored, they can skip forward.
Yeah, skip forward, let's say, 40 minutes.
We need to get it on the record. We need to get it on the record.
That's true, yeah. Hold my feet to the fire. So, proposed episode 5, concluded episode 9. The vanished Mickle room is being set up for someone else to find, possibly Jonas.
I think you're going to give yourself green on that.
Yep. You better believe it. I know the possibly Jonas throws some doubt on it.
Yeah, I know. But that was the strange thing that at the end. But I don't really see the evidence. Like I agree. I think I agree with the green. I do. But I don't really see the stone cold evidence that he did set it up for Regina to find, and it wasn't just him planning stuff.
That's true. I guess my assumption is that he's done all this. He knows that he has to follow a certain plan.
Yeah, so if it's like cramming for in my mind it could also be. Now I'm not saying like you could be green here, and like I'm happy to give you a green on this because I think you're probably right. But if you imagine like he's cramming for an exam, he's got a load of things he has to do in this sort of week, and and he's like he's making like little like study plans and stuff for himself. That's where my head was going when I first watched it.
That's a valid argument. So why don't I'll make it orange?
No, don't make it orange because you are going to need the greens.
Oh, I mean, Jesus Christ!
I think we'll keep it green. I think he knew that someone was going to come and find it, even if he didn't know who it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well that's very kind of you because you are correct. I am going to need it.
Yeah.
So on to the next one. This has not yet been concluded, but Mikkel saving the stranger's life was the notes he has given to Jonas. So that's kind of nebulous and ongoing at the moment.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe it will be more explicit than that, but I feel like that's kind of well, we'll find out.
Do you want me to say whether or not some of them you will find out or not?
No, let's leave them open because I can then I can announce when I'm marking these things off as we go.
Whether or not you noticed,
yeah.
And then also I can, if when we're at the very end and you're going, see if you go through that one again, and for example that one you just said, if that does get concluded and you haven't noticed it got concluded, then I can just say it at the end of the 3 series and I'll say that one actually did.
Yeah, no, exactly. Okay, so this is this was one that was quite contentious. Concluded in episode 9. Ulrich raped Katerina, but they will deny it to the police and make Hannah out to be a liar.
So I'm red on that.
Yeah, I was red on that as well.
Because I think if you had made it 2 different predictions, Ulrich raped Katerina and then also they deny it to the police, that maybe I could have given you an orange on the second part, but definitely red. But that was to be honest with you, that'll go down in Podcast Hall of Fame. That few episodes of us going back and forth and me trying really hard to get conversation out of you, and I was kind of trying to push you in the direction of now. Listen, I want listeners to think about this, right? I was trying to push Conrad in the direction, and you go back and listen if you want to. I was always trying to subtly push him in the direction of maybe realizing that Hannah was lying. So,
yeah.
but Conrad's too nice of a guy.
Yeah.
That he you're too much of an ally to women that you were believing that case and you were on Katerina's side as a rape victim the whole time until
victims, folks.
But that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing because whenever he got given cold hard evidence that actually it didn't happen, he then said, "Okay, it didn't happen," and that is the best quality you can ever have. Well done, Conrad.
Yeah, no, but I think, but as we've said before, not to relitigate it, but I think again, it's not. I don't think the show is really interested in sort of getting into a moral debate. It just wants Ulrich to be thought of in certain terms, and that whole storyline achieved it. So I thought it was really effective.
Yeah, and but I would also say I think this show very much wants moral debates.
I mean, I think it generally it does. I don't think it wants you to like. I think for that one specifically, I didn't get the impression they wanted us to be like, did Ulrich do it or didn't he? Yeah,
it's not a team Hannah, team Ulrich, or team
exactly.
Carrie. It's not a team Edward, team Jacob sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be part of either of those teams, to be honest.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so next one. This has not been concluded yet, but the future torch is some kind of UV light or that shows things in a spectrum humans can't see. Maybe it's just
that's not been concluded. Yeah. But you were right. You were right in that prediction because I remember you said, well, not right in that it's correct. We don't know yet, but you were right in the way you sort of put it across in terms of your thinking because you were thinking, well, I've got plenty of torches at home. Like, why would I use a future one?
Yeah, what is the? We have torches in 2019. Jonas, like we don't need this. It's been a while since you've been there. Maybe you've just forgotten what technology was like in 2019. Okay. So this one was concluded in episode 8. H.G. Tannhaus is just a clockmaker in the 80s and will become a black hole physicist because of the intervention of the stranger.
Well, this is hard. I'm going to go orange.
Oh, okay. I went red on this.
I'm going to go orange, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'm thinking in terms of this point in the story, right? What we know so far. I'm not thinking in terms of anything in the future, but this point in the story, we know that the clock. Now, I don't accidentally say something I shouldn't because I can't. Old Claudia, what did she do?
She gave him the schematics for his machine.
There we go. So
yeah,
it's orange because if you had just said, instead of naming Jonas or the stranger, and if you had just said old Claudia, or no, if you had just said he doesn't become involved in time travel until someone comes along to the shop,
yeah,
then that would have been green. But because you named the stranger, it's orange because actually Claudia seems to have begun this journey into this. Now, whether or not before that he actually was interested in the physics, we haven't actually got confirmation of that yet.
That's true, yeah.
But we definitely know that in terms of the time machine, he didn't seem to actually build the time machine until he got those schematics.
No, he was just handing Agnes her dad's watch before that, living a very boring life.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right, I'm happy to take an orange on that because, yeah.
Do you see my reasoning for that?
Yeah, no, I think I was kind of in a similar mindset, but I was thinking because I specified the 80s and then the stranger, I was a bit like, okay, that's a little bit too much wrong there for me to count it. But I'm more than happy to take a neutral on that.
No bother.
Okay, so this one was concluded in episode 9. I don't know if this was really ever sort of emphatically confirmed. I think it was one I just kind of came to the conclusion it was wrong. So Noah steps through time at will with his cabal of hooded figures, maintaining a timeline that suits him while playing God. He consumes children to keep himself young via the machine we have seen. So there's a lot in that. That's a big theory.
He consumes children to keep himself young. I remember there was a certain point whenever you were like, yeah, that's probably wrong, but I'm not going to call it flat out wrong yet. So I think that's a red.
Yeah, that's a big old red on that one.
See, those sorts of ones I'm a bit scared to say red because in my mind I'm like, am I just dulling your imagination? You know what I mean?
Oh no, this is just, it just means that I wasn't thinking big enough as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Like, how many Noahs are there? That's the real question. Okay, so speaking of people stepping through time, the next one is not yet concluded, and this one is ridiculous, but I'm sticking with it until it's proven to be right or wrong. Elizabeth is Charlotte's mum.
I think this one was on episode 5.5 or something like that.
Yeah, I think that was a questions episode.
Yeah, because you mentioned something about the fact that Elizabeth and Charlotte. Well, actually,
like a weird relationship.
Talk the listeners through who don't listen to the Q&A why you came to that conclusion.
I mean, it was basically purely based on their relationship, both in when they have that chat with each other before Elizabeth goes to school and when Charlotte is dropping Elizabeth off at school, where like Elizabeth is like dragging Charlotte down to her level and then bumping her on the head to say goodbye and doing the things that a mum would do to her daughter.
Yeah.
And it just seemed, I mean, I know I have no reason to believe this. I have no evidence to support it, but there's something going on in that relationship, and I'm sticking to it until I'm riding that plane into the ground.
Yeah, and whether you get a point or a minus 1 point or a minus point for that, it's down to me because I remember in that Q question and answers, I demanded that you tell us what you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
You were dancing around that theory, something awful.
I was because I knew how ridiculous it sounds. It's sort of outside of context. It makes me sound like a madman.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, proposed episode 5, concluded episode 7. Yasin is Alexander.
I love the predictions of certain people are certain people.
Yeah, they're very specific. They're very kind of like Russian roulette predictions. Like there's a good chance this is going to end up just completely wrong.
Yeah, and I think actually, this is maybe a time to add in this theory because I don't think you ever said this on a podcast, but I think you said this when we were talking between each other. didn't you predict? I bring this up because we're talking about people predicting certain people are certain people. Didn't you predict that no, I'm not saying that you thought of it, that you still think it, but you had the idea that maybe Agnes was older Martyr.
Yeah, that was later. Don't you worry about that.
Is that in the theory matrix?
That's in the theory matrix.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. I couldn't remember if we mentioned that in the podcast or not.
No, hold on. Let me just double check. Oh yeah, don't you worry about that. That's coming up. That one's tucked away in the back pocket. But yeah, so this one, none of you will be surprised to hear I have marked as wrong. Yasin is not Alexander.
Oh, but is he Boris?
I mean, listen.
There's
two seasons of television left.
Even Alexander isn't Alexander.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so really, I should get an orange for that because Alexander isn't a real person.
Yeah.
All right, so we're into episode 6 now. So this hasn't been concluded. I feel like it probably should, but I haven't had the heart to kind of fully knock it off yet. But Noah has the Philosopher's Stone and is using it to keep himself young.
Well, it's either going. We haven't seen anything this far which would prove or disprove that. I don't think.
I don't know if they're really going to get in. If there is such a thing, I feel like this is one of those ones that's going to just drag on to the end of the series, and then it's right. Well, obviously that's wrong because it wasn't addressed.
Well, if you want to put a pin, if you want to make it red because it hasn't been shown yet, and then if the Philosopher's Stone shows up, we can go back and change it.
I feel like I've got to be consistent with this. Like the ones that I've left open, I've just left open.
Well, then let's leave it open then.
Because the Regina is having a sword fight. That's staying open until the last episode of season 3. Like there's every possibility in the world that Regina will have a sword fight at some point.
But also it has to be something that happens on camera in the show because
yeah, that's true.
We can't get to the end of season 3, never see a Philosopher's Stone and saying, but maybe he had it the whole time and we didn't see it.
Okay, but if we don't see a sword fight on screen, but at some point like they're running away from like the Predator or whoever the bad guy is in season 3, and Regina stops and draws a sword and says, "You go on without me," and then everyone runs, and it does like that scene from Predator where she's like standing on a log like Billy and like facing down the Predator, and then she just screams. I'm having that as Regina is having a sword fight. So and by that same token, if someone mentions the Philosopher's Stone, like I feel like I'm allowed it.
Okay. What if they mention Harry Potter?
Yeah. If they just mention J.K. Rowling, I'm having it.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Hold on. Where are we? I've lost my place. Here we go. Proposed episode 6, concluded episode 10. The nuclear plant is built to try and harvest or manipulate the prima materia.
Yeah. Well, that's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I think the nuclear plant was built to power Wyndham.
Yeah, I don't think Burnt knows what the prima materia is and would accuse you of being a hippie if you mentioned it to him, to be honest. So
yeah, but to be honest with you, when you were talking about all that prima materia stuff, in my mind, I think I mentioned this before, in my mind, I just kept thinking of the cesium-137, which you didn't know about yet. So I was kind of like sort of, in my head, I was like, oh, he's hitting on some themes here, but they're completely mental, but he's hitting on some themes.
Yeah, I think it is. It's kind of like the Yggdrasil stuff. It's thematically appropriate, but not actually. It's not close enough to what they're actually dealing with to really be worth much. So likewise, also concluded in episode 10, which was a bad episode for my theories. The prima materia is under Vinden, and following on from that, I'll do 2 at once. The prima materia is dark matter.
Yeah, that's both wrong.
Yep. So that was good. And this one as well. Proposed episode 6. I really got on like a kick of this kind of thing in episode 6. It was all just came like just crashing down in episode 10.
Was this the episode where you saw Mikkel looking at the episode 5 was the one where you saw Mikkel looking at the Emerald Tablet?
Yes, yeah. That's
maybe why this was in your head. This was all
maybe,
in your head.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think episode 6 is the one that starts with like the montage of like H.G. Tannhaus talking about hell and like black holes being hell mouths and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this one also concluded in episode 10. Noah needs children to utilize the Philosopher's Stone.
Well, if we're leaving the Philosopher's Stone one open...
I mean, he doesn't need the children. We know what he needs the children for, to be honest.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I can't, in good conscience, leave that open. Okay, so this one, proposed episode 6, unconcluded. Martyr isn't Ulrich and Katerina's child. It's possibly related to Noah.
Interesting.
I've left it open.
Yeah, you've left it open. Yeah, leave it open.
Okay.
If we don't see a birth certificate in this show...
Yeah, exactly.
That's staying open.
Show me the documents, Martyr. That's all I want to see. Okay, this one was also concluded in episode 10. There are 3 groups involved in the time travel. The wording on this makes me want to shoot myself in the head. Noah's gang, the strangers, open quotation, outsiders, close quotation, and the nuclear plant folk.
Up to this point in the show,
yeah,
that seems correct.
Yeah, you would include the nuclear plant people.
Well, they exist.
Yeah, I suppose they do. Yeah, I mean, I've marked this as wrong.
They were involved because they accidentally, well, at this point in the story, we assume they accidentally created the cesium-137. So they are involved, and they're a group of people, the staff of the nuclear power plant. So I'm not saying that going forward there's going to be these 3 groups going against each other. Yeah. But it does seem to me that there has been, if you were going to characterize the 3 groups that way, then even if the stranger's sort of on his own, well, they sort of alluded to maybe that Claudia was telling the stranger sort of things, and she was sort of lying to him. Noah said that, but yeah, I think that's green, if I'm honest with you, at this point in the story.
All right, okay, cool. I'm quite happy to take a green. There, I didn't expect that. And
I don't necessarily know if we were to go over that theory at the end of season 3, it probably wouldn't be green. But based on what we've seen so far, I'm happy to say green, and we'll just give it to you, and then that's sort of a free point for you.
Okay, nice, a gimme.
Yeah.
Okay, and yeah, this next one, I was quite pleased with. So this was concluded in episode 9. Claudia will travel through time.
Yeah, done.
Yep, back of the net.
That's good.
Okay, so we've got a couple more from episode 6. These are both not concluded yet. So first one, stranger was a member of Noah's gang but defected.
Yeah, not concluded.
Not concluded, yeah. And equally, Bartos will be recruited into Noah's cult. I keep on going back and forth between calling it a gang and a cult. I haven't decided, or a cabal. I haven't decided which of those terms for a group of people I like most yet.
Well, it depends. Well, what would you call a group of Satanists?
Right, exactly, yeah. A cult.
I think that one there, well, we don't really know if he's actually going to be successful in the old indoctrination of Bartos, but he's definitely trying.
Yeah, he's giving it a go.
So we'll leave that we're going to leave that unconcluded for now.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, so this is we're into episode 7 now, so only a couple in episode 7. This was a pretty big one. And it was pretty well. We'll get into that in a second. So, concluded in episode 8, Helge has been duplicated by bringing his 1953 child self to 1986 and somehow aging him up and wiping his memory, while his 1986 self goes off doing time murders with Noah. Peter Doppler and Trontier are involved and have potentially had this done to them too. Correct or not?
Yeah. Is that option A? What's I would say incorrect.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Even if one aspect of it was correct, like that's way too much stuff in one.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of just went on a bit of a stream of consciousness with that one.
Yeah, you sort of knew that wasn't going to come to pass. You just like get all these weird ideas down so don't forget them.
I'll lump these all into one theory, so that I only lose 1 point for this.
Yeah.
And this one is quite open-ended, to be honest. This is back to sort of my earlier form where I just made vague predictions to get myself potentially points. So unconcluded so far, Ulrich is going to die.
Everyone's going to die.
Yeah, I mean, on how long a timeline are we talking here, really?
Yeah, okay. Well, we're going to leave that open.
Yeah.
I think part of me wants to give you green because, as we discussed thematically in the story, he sort of has been killed. In a normal story that wasn't about time travel, he's sort of been the equivalent of killed.
Yeah, like he's kind of like I said in the last episode. I think unless something crazy happens with his characters, like break him out of jail, I don't really see any way that he has a meaningful impact on the story going forward.
Yeah, okay, but I'm not giving you anything for that. We'll say
No, that's fine.
Unconcluded.
So we'll find so we're into episode 8 now, and a lot of these are going to be unconcluded, but it'll be fun to go through them anyway. But just because we haven't seen enough for the show to really confirm or unconfirm them.
Yeah.
So first from episode 8, Agnes Nielsen is Martyr.
Yeah. So obviously that's unconcluded. I mean, why would she have the same last name but change her first name?
That's a good point. I would counter that by saying she has brown hair.
Yeah. It's gotta be.
Every woman in this show with brown hair with any kind of mystery is potentially Martyr in my mind. So
yeah, I know exactly how you feel.
So yeah, that's unconfirmed. Next one is also unconfirmed. This is Noah can restore people to life. I haven't seen him not do it.
True, it is unconfirmed. Maybe he snuck in to the bunker and woke Helga up.
Yeah, I mean, he maybe has like key powers or something to bring people back to life. I just don't know.
Yeah, okay. We'll keep that unconfirmed for the moment.
Okay, so this one is concluded. So this was concluded in episode 10. Noah brought Helga forward to the 80s after reviving him.
Noah brought Helga forward to the 80s after reviving him. Is
Young
concluded.
Helga, that would be. Yeah.
Incorrect. Falsch.
Yeah.
It was teetering on the edge of correct, that one, except for the extra Noah thing you put.
Yeah. It's and really, if I'm being honest with myself, that was like the crux of that theory, was this idea that Helga is dead and Noah is kind of going to revive him somehow and then have him serve him because he's kind of in his debt. But yeah. Wasn't to be. Okay, this one was concluded in episode 9. There are 2 Helgas, which I'll let you say your piece first.
Well, I assume I'm going by what you would think, and I assume you've come to the conclusion that there are not 2 Helgas, so that's incorrect.
Yeah. So I marked it as incorrect, but then I did just briefly then reflect on the fact that Helga does talk to himself in the last episode.
So maybe schizophrenic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no. There's like, old Helga goes back to the 80s and talks to little Helga. So, but I don't think that really counts, to be honest.
I thought you were talking about him just going like tick tock. It's gonna happen again.
Oh no, yeah.
He talks to himself in 2 ways. Yeah, that doesn't count.
Okay, fine, fair enough. And this one was also concluded in episode 9. Then Noah has one of H.G. Tannhouse's wormhole machines. Nil point.
Oh yeah. So you said So it's incorrect because he's making his own machine.
Yeah, or failing to do so, as the case may be.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, we've got a stretch now of largely unconfirmed ones with a couple in the middle. So I'll go through these slightly quicker. So the first one, we're still on episode 8. There has been a nuclear war in the future, and that is where the Stranger and Claudia are from. I feel like I'm on the edge of that one.
Yeah, you're on the edge of that one because saying that Claudia's from there, you're saying that she traveled there and then went back again. Because we know she's from the 80s.
It's like, I guess that's where her like base is that she's operating out of now, I suppose, is what I'm thinking there.
Well, if you would put that in a different prediction, then that would have maybe been correct, because we know that Claudia has definitely been in that future that we were shown because of all the
like the snow or
the snow, the nuclear,
the ash or whatever.
Yeah, the ash. So we know she's been there. We also think she was holding a gun in that scene. Yeah, so we also know that. So that bunker, we're assuming that bunker is hers at the minute. So that if that was a separate theory, that would have been correct. But altogether, I'm not sure.
Okay, well we'll leave
unconcluded.
Leave
I think. Yeah.
Okay, this one again. I feel like I'm right on the cusp of this one, but it isn't concluded at the moment. Agnes Nielsen will seduce Tronta's wife and steal their home.
Yeah, unconcluded, but there's definitely something going on there.
Yeah, she's got eyes for old Doris. Is it Doris?
Yeah, Doris. Yeah.
Doris Nielsen. Oh no, Doris. What's Tronta's surname? Tiedemann. That's it. Yeah. Okay, this one
could be Nielsen by the end of the year.
Could be. Yeah, it could be. This one's a bit of out of left field. I think this was one I came up with at your prompting, so this is mainly your fault.
Okay.
But also not concluded. Bartos will be killed by Jonas.
Oh, that's right. So you basically were talking. I think you were talking about how Bartos was going to get himself in hot water or something, and you were sort of dancing around that idea. So then I wanted to sort of just get a few predictions in, because that week we didn't have any. This is episode 9.
This is episode 8 still.
Oh, okay. So I don't know why I asked you this, but I wanted to sort of get a theory on the board. So I thought I just had an idea, because it matched thematically what we were talking about at the time. So I just said,
definitely.
"Do you think he's going to get murdered?" You said, "Yeah," and then
I think it's because I talked about how I think Jonas is kind of getting roped into Noah's group of people or whatever, and I could envisage him having sort of a redemptive arc where he goes through all of that, realizes he's made a mistake, and ultimately has to die to kind of make up for what he's done. And it would be quite, poetic for it to be Jonas who ends up killing him in the end. So that's where this came from. But yeah, I have a feeling we'll be waiting a while to see where this one goes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay, so there's 2 more for episode 8, and then we're on to episode 9. So this one, this is a difficult one. So propose episode 8. I've got it as concluded in episode 10, but in my heart of hearts, I don't really believe it's concluded. So death allows you to exit the loop and be awoken in the center of the wormhole. That is why there are 2 Helgas, why the stranger has a scar on his neck, and we'll meet Michael again as a result.
Well, that's unconcluded so far.
Do you think? Okay, I see. I got to the end of this and I was like, I feel like I'm barking up the wrong tree here, but I'm gonna mark it off.
Yeah, you definitely. There's an air. I see what you mean. There's an air of it being maybe not where they're leading to, based on what we've seen in the last episode. But at the same time, like there's no proof that that's not going to happen.
That's true. Okay, fair enough. I'll leave it open. I'll commit to the theory. And the last one from episode 8, that you'll like this one. It's potentially my crowning glory as a theory. Proposed episode 8, concluded episode bloody 9. Claudia will run into her dog in the 80s.
You even went in more detail than that. She'll run into her dog, and you said, and that will be what starts her realizing that time travel's the thing and sends her her journey.
Yeah, and in the caves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That was dead on. And I think that was like a last-minute Hail Mary attempt.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the last question of the 8.5 questions.
Yeah, it was absolutely. So that's one that maybe people wouldn't realize. I think we did talk about that in episode 9. Actually, yeah. But crazy. Okay.
I was very, very proud of that one. Okay, so that is us done with ones that are concluded. So I'll go through these last ones for episode 9 and 10 quite quickly, just to see if you have any thoughts, or maybe you think some of these should be concluded.
Cool.
So first one from episode 9, H.G. Tannhaus will travel through time. Possibly.
That's unconcluded. I think at the time, I think at the end of episode 9, you predicted that he was going to travel through time in the next episode. Which obviously is incorrect, but in terms of in general, if it's a general theory you're putting in the Matrix, well, then that's unconcluded. Yeah,
I think that's me returning to a more broad form of prediction to get myself some points.
No problem.
Okay, next one. There is a group we are yet to meet who have maintained the current timeline and built the Sic Mundus door.
Yeah, well, that's unconcluded as well, but yeah, I like that prediction, and I like that's a huge prediction. You know what I mean? I like those big ones.
Yeah, that's what we want. We want the stuff that can go disastrously wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one. The pennies are Helga and Noah's way of letting Peter, Tronte, and other Helga know that the bodies they are finding and disposing of are from him. That should probably be wrong, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's wrong, because we know that Helga and Noah are working together from the start, where they put the body, they put the boy in the chair and then send them. So like they wouldn't need to let them know where it's coming from.
Yeah, and to be fair, like we know by the end of this that Tronte and Peter aren't working with Noah and Helga at all. So yeah.
Yeah, and actually, here's a question that I want to ask you that we never actually got into. And actually, I've never seen anyone ask this question before. So this is me just having a real first time question for you, Conrad.
All right, do it.
Because no one's even asked this question of me about the show.
Okay.
Why do you think Helga wasn't there to pick up Mads when he came through to 2019? How did they know that he was going to be put in the forest by the, you know what I mean? Like surely Helga should have been there to take that body.
Well, he had the accident, didn't he?
Yeah, but he's still going through, like, he's time traveler.
Yeah, but he can't. That's like kind of the end of his ability to time travel because old Helga has gone back and injured him. So I think he would have gone forward in time from the 80s.
But we saw him when he took Yasin. That was technically after Mads arrived in 2019. So he So he would have been able to get there to take Mads. So why like you don't need to give me an answer, but I just mean, do you have any thoughts, or is that something maybe you want to like, you know? I don't think I've never even heard anyone asking this question in general about the show, to be honest with you. Like, why wasn't Helga there waiting for Mads, just like he was the other boys?
Yeah, sorry, of course. I'm thinking of Yasin rather, or not. Well, no, not Yasin. Like the later guys that go missing that line up with Helga having the car accident with Mads. Yeah, that's a good question. That is a good question. I guess it's kind of one of the genius things about the screenplay is that everything can be explained with, well, that's how things have happened, therefore that is the way they will continue to happen.
And we've also been shown characters with a book telling them what to do.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that whole chicken and egg thing of, well, why wasn't he there? And it's like, because he doesn't need to be there, because Peter and Tronte and Claudia will take him to where he needs to be found. It will wrinkle your brain, to quote Community, but it can be used to explain pretty much everything in this show, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest with you, I've tried to explain things even from season 3, like, well, that's the way it happens, you know. And there are always one or two people in the comments who just, I think they're saying that's a lazy explanation. But I was like, but that is the explanation. I'm sorry if you feel that way, but that is the explanation. But,
I mean, I get it. It's a fun mental exercise to see if you can kind of logic your way out of that, but you've always got that as a little safety net of the narrative.
Exactly.
But that is a good question, though. I wonder what would happen if they just decided not to do that. But then it's deterministic, so they'd never decide not to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe Helga was just hiding behind the curtains in the in the cabin.
Yeah, he was inside.
He heard them outside.
I need them to leave so I can go and deal with the body. I'm just making an acorn surfer dude. Or a pinecone surfer dude, rather. Okay, so the next one, we've got a couple more from episode 9. This one is also not concluded. Noah has died and exited the loop himself. So I am kind of wavering on this whole exiting the loop thing, but I feel
we're leaving the other one open. We're leaving this one open too.
Yeah. So whenever that gets concluded, which may well be the last episode of season 3, that could be a hammer blow to my chances of maintaining a positive score, because it's going to be like 4 or 5 theories getting disproven at the same time. Okay, next one. The Tiedemans acquire the Doppler house and turn it into a hotel after Bernd is ruined by Claudia. So this is one I'm kind of...
We definitely know that it does become a hotel, but the reason for that is open so far.
Yep. Okay, next one. This is quite a big one. And I don't really know where this came from, to be honest, if I'm thinking back on it. But Noah will reveal himself to and kill Agnes.
Yeah. I think that just came like when we were deconstructing the character of Agnes. I think that came about in that conversation.
Yeah.
So that's obviously open.
Yeah.
He hasn't done that yet.
Nope. And the next one is less open-ended than that, I think, but it's still unconcluded at the moment. So this is the last one from episode 9. Noah is Agnes's husband.
Yeah, so that's open-ended, but yeah. You
I feel like they're hinting
confident about that one.
Well, I mean, she said her husband was a priest, and we haven't met that many other priests in this show. So,
I don't think she explicitly said priest, but yeah, it's like she definitely, like, I think preacher or something. Yeah. But she definitely was going for that. Yeah.
Okay, into episode 10, and we've got some fairly big ones here. So the first one, Charlotte and Peter will be the next to time travel.
Yeah, because you thought because they were in the bunker whenever the portals emerged that they might go through a portal too.
So I kind of ruined or spoiled the writing of that, because I actually think it will be Peter who time travels. I think it will be one of them, because Peter seems like he's dumb enough to touch the portal, like, and he also hasn't done any of the like background research on the time travel. Like Charlotte has almost gotten to the point where she understands and accepts it, which would make it a lot less entertaining for her to travel through time than for Peter, where he like wakes up in the 20s and he's like, what? And then like has to figure out what's happened. So that's what I think is going to happen to them.
Well, if you want to change that to, if you like, that's open ended right now. But if you want to change that now to Peter, I'll let you do that.
Okay, I'm changing it to Peter. Done.
How funny it would be if I know that Charlotte.
Yeah, you've just misled me.
Yeah.
Got him. Okay, next one. Next season will be predominantly about the future, so that's quite vague. But I think.
But I think we'll be able to do that at the end of season 2. We'll be able to say whether that's true or not. I think.
Yep. Okay, next one. Jonas will go back to 1920 with a plan of murdering young Noah, but will decide against it.
Yeah, so taking the murdering young Hitler thing to another level.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy with that to be open-ended at the minute.
Okay.
Obviously, we haven't seen it happen.
And the last theory of the entire season: future gunwoman is Martyr. Open brackets. Any brunette is Martyr. Close brackets.
So the woman who smacked Jonas in the face with the gun. So, but the question I have for you about that is, they don't really seem like they're too much different in age.
No, they're not at all. Like, I mean, if anything, they're probably about the same age and look completely different from one another. But
you may as well get a wee red on the board one day.
She's lived through nuclear war. We don't know how that could change a woman. Like, she's been hardened by her time on the front lines.
Exactly. Okay, so that's all your theories from the Theory Matrix. That was good fun. Enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to doing that for the season 2 summary now. Actually, seeing how all your theories are coming out of season 2. We'll also revisit the ones that have been unconcluded so far there. Awesome. So what I was going to do now, I was going to... Well, just before we finish that, we will try and get that into the description if anyone wants to have a look at it. I think that'll be pretty fun. So what we're going to do now, I've got three theories here that I know for a fact were theories in the fandom coming out of season 1. Because I saw Dark all the way back whenever it first came out, and I was waiting a year and a half. I think it was actually a year and a half for the second season, and there was a lot of time to stew on theories. Now, the thing was, there wasn't many really, really meaty theories, but there was a few. So I'm going to go through them now. I'm only going to go through 3 because I don't want to be here all day. Okay?
Okay.
So the first one that I've got here is that Noah is Agnes's husband.
Oh, okay, fine. Nice to know the people were on side with me.
Yeah, so that was a very widely held theory. And I will also say that to the listeners, I've also already prepped Conrad. These theories that I'm putting out there, they could be right, they could be wrong. But I'm just letting him know what the fans were thinking at the same time as him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Noah is Agnes's husband was a main theory. So obviously you agree with that.
Yep. Yeah, I've got that in the Matrix.
No problem. Okay, so the next one I'm interested to hear, because you haven't touched this at all.
Oh, God.
A big theory, maybe the biggest theory coming out of season 1. Now, I'm not saying everyone believed this, or thought it was going to actually happen, but it was a theory that people thought might be cool. Yep. People thought that maybe Bartos was actually Noah.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like they're way too different in character, to be honest. Like, I can see, there's a relationship there, obviously. And I could see Bartos being the kind of character who becomes very spiteful and resentful when, people hurt him. Mm-hmm. And he kind of carries that damage with him. But to become Noah, it's a bit of a leap for me.
Cool. So that was the second one that was sort of people were thinking about. The last one is based on something that you've also picked up on, and that was the idea that it cut away to Jonas whenever Noah was doing his little monologue about a visitor that came to his house when he was a boy.
Yeah.
And that theory is, it's a bit. I'm going to go a bit more for the theory that was out there. Now, this wasn't a hugely widely held theory, but I definitely saw it more than once. So the theory is, like, in your mind now, you're placing Noah in the past, because that's where, like you were saying, Jonas is going to go back to the past to kill baby Noah. You're placing him in the past because obviously he's talking about the war. Now, a theory going at the time was that there was actually going to be a war, like a World War III or a war in the future. Now, you also mentioned nuclear war a couple of times. So there was going to be some sort of thing, and that is what Noah was talking about during that future war. So maybe Noah was a child in the future, and Jonas now is in the future. So that thing that Noah was talking about, where it cut away to Jonas, might actually happen in the future, not the past.
Yeah, I could. That is interesting. I could definitely buy that if that happens. I think when it happens, for me, will be less interesting than the fact it happens, because if it does happen the way I'm kind of envisaging it, it will be holding a mirror up to what Ulrich does and saying, here is what Jonas does when the fate of, time itself and the entire, all of humanity, he refuses to kill a child because, what is the world worth if we are having to kill innocent children in order to maintain it, versus Ulrich, who says, I will murder one innocent child to bring back one other innocent child. That's kind of, in my head, that's how I see that how I see it going. But yeah, I could totally see it happening in the future. Actually, that is interesting. I hadn't really considered that.
Yeah, so that's something to think about as well. Okay, so we have a load of questions from you guys to go through with Conrad, and we are going to go through them all. I'm only going to say we were planning on doing it in the same video and same podcast, but the thing is, Conrad's theory matrix took a long time. So I think what we'll do is actually delay the question and answers until episode 13.5, which will be this Saturday. What do you think about that, Conrad?
Yeah, okay, that makes sense, and then we can get some meat on the bones of the answers.
Yeah, because rather than just trying to slam in 15, 16, or even 20 questions, I think there might be, slamming them into 20 minutes here, we can spend a good sort of 40, 45 minutes on them and sort of really give you answers that you'll be satisfied with. And I know the people who do ask the questions do enjoy those question and answer videos anyway, so it'll get you an extra podcast to listen to. So that's always good anyway. So I think for this one, I'm happy with how that sort of season summary went. I'm really looking forward to next week when we get our teeth into season 2, episode 1.
Yep, I can't wait.
I'm interested to see actually in terms of the tone of the show, whether you view it as a separate tone or it's a continuation of the same thing, because there's such a big gap between each for me. I maybe have a bit of a harder way, like maybe you will feel like it's just picking up where it left off, or it'll be the exact same feeling. I'm interested to see that sort of side of it as well as the actual events of the show as well.
Yeah, no, me too. I think if my prediction that a lot of this is going to take place in the future comes true, I'll be really interested to see whether they maintain that same kind of like the sort of similar kind of score and the similar sort of style of shooting. But yeah, I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so for now, we'll leave you until Saturday. And all we're going to have to say is subscribe on the YouTube channel, subscribe on the podcasting apps. Apart from that, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the After Dark podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode.